Welcome back to a special edition of Fox and Friends, remembering the extraordinary life and legacy of George H.W. Bush.
The 41st President of the United States passed away last night at the age of 94. As the longest living president in U.S. history, he was a great reminder of what true leadership looks like.
I will keep America moving forward, always forward, for a better America, for an endless, enduring dream and 1,000 points of light. This is my mission, and I will complete it.
The World War II vet, American hero, passed away nearly 8 months after the death of his wife, Barbara, after 73 years of marriage. Our next guest served as the nation's first drug czar in George H.W. Bush's administration. Of course, he was Education Secretary before that. Joining us now, Dr. Bill Bennett. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Ed.
There's so much ground to cover, but I think when I hear that word mission, I think of George.
Yeah.
He just used that word.
Yeah, old-fashioned guy. He had a sense of mission and conviction about him. Extraordinary. I've been watching all morning. You guys have done a great job, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
The guests and the foreign policy stuff is obvious. I mean, this is what he was trained for this all his life. The best prepared guy ever for foreign policy. And he showed what American power would be. When Alexander Hamilton wrote American Power, he said it should go like Hercules. And that Gulf War, he showed it. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I was the first drug czar, and his 4 years were the culmination of the greatest decline in American drug use in modern history. We could sure use that right now. He pushed hard, we pushed hard, the country pushed hard, and we got this epidemic down by 70%. And he went with me wherever I asked him to go on that mission. We went to South America, went to Colombia. Jim Baker was not happy about it. We were on the helicopter, and Baker said, "Who the hell decided to bring us down here?" I said, I did.
That's great.
The president, he looked to the president. The president said, "I'm just wondering what the fishing's like down there." But, he always had great sense of balance. But he was the establishment. We talk about the establishment today, but he was the best of the establishment and the best of men and the most decent boss I ever had.
His 4 years as president, they were so prolific, and to hear the strides that he and you made in the drug arena, but also the Civil Rights Act of 1990, the Clean Air Act, the ADA, the budget.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost impossible to believe he had the same 24 hours in a day that everyone else did.
He did, and he also had time for leisure. And if I can, I know it's a solemn morning, but there's always time to tell a good story. I have wonderful stories about George Bush. We were going into San Francisco. We were in a limousine, and lining the road was San Francisco's finest, but also San Francisco's weirdest. Some of the people from the city who were dressed up, protesting him and protesting me, the drug bazaar, as they called me. And President Bush turned to the Secret Service and he said, "Hey, if we throw Bennett out of the car, what are the odds he makes it into the city?" I mean, he just had that great sense of humor. Another thing, I know you've touched on it, but just if I may, we go up to Camp David. It was an athletics day. I mean, it was an athletics drill. And Jack Kemp and I trying to hit a fastball on a pitching machine, couldn't do it. And Kemp's a pretty darn good athlete, and I'm just an old tackle. But George Bush hitting line drives out into the outfield, and just the memory. If I could just tell one more,
please do.
One more story.
Please do.
We were out in Portland, Oregon, at the dedication of a police memorial, and we were supposed to go jogging at 5:30 in the morning. George Bush and I jogged, and when we did, he, 20 years my senior, would slow down for my benefit, Ed, just before Ed says something.
Oh, I'm not going to tease you about that.
He was the big kahuna slowing down.
Understood.
We call you the big kahuna out of love.
And he would say, "Fill me in." Went to his room, and we looked out, and the Secret Service called off. They said, "You can't go." There was a demonstration out there in the street, and they were burning the flag. George Herbert Walker Bush, who was kidded about being inarticulate, and, the Dana Carvey imitation, looked out, and I'll never forget, he said, "That really gets to me. Nothing gets to me like burning the flag." If those people knew what people had to endure in order to keep that flag held high. And I thought the American people could hear that eloquence. That was the man. That was the measure of the man.
Definitely a quiet patriot as opposed to a lot of the bombast you see in this day and age. Another common thread that we've had all morning long is this spread between the man who left office and the man that we revere in moments like today in terms of his popularity and the job that he did. In your estimation, if he didn't inherit an economy that was slowly going downhill and ultimately hit that breaking point in 1991, 1992, where do you think George H.W. Bush would rank in the pantheon of U.S. presidents?
Oh, I think top dozen. I wrote a book called The Century Turns about his presidency and Clinton presidency, and very much underrated. He was overshadowed by Ronald Reagan, who was just, was out there more, and people remember him. And Reagan had a greater, more consequential presidency. But let's remember, the Berlin Wall really fell during the presidency of George Herbert Walker Bush. But he was never one to toot his own horn, as you all have pointed out all morning. So, a fine man, a great president, a public servant, and we'll miss him. He stood by me. I had conflicts. I won't tell you inside stories, but with the Defense Department, with others on the drug war, I would call him, and he would say, "Let's go get it. Let's go do it." And he'd intervene for me when I asked. He was a great human being. We watched TV once in his office, behind the Oval Office, and Ross Perot was on, ranting and raving about President Bush, and he said that President Bush had destroyed his daughter's wedding by putting whoopee cushions in the couches and doing all sorts of things. And the president turned to me. We were having a policy breakfast. He said, "Do you believe this guy? Do you believe this stuff?" Anyway, he had such a great sense of himself. He knew who he was. This was a man who was rooted, and just, he was a great example for
Bill
all
Bennett,
of us,
we appreciate
people.
Your stories have been
Sorry.
phenomenal. No, they've been fantastic. We appreciate you coming in, sir, and I'm sure you'll be on Fox throughout the week remembering a remarkable life and legacy. Thank you.
You all have done a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.